screen.
Yes, there
Oh,
it is.
now it says
Okay.
it. Now it actually says recording
Yep.
and transcription.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
good. So we're set. So let me get started. Let's do introductions first. We'll just get those out of the way, and then we will change up the agenda a little bit. I'll go over the agenda after we do introductions, and the change is going to be that we will take care of our minutes while we
Which we have
can
a quorum.
before people put their kids to bed or whatever. So we'll get started here. So I guess I'll start. I'm the chair of the PAC. I know everybody here, and I think just about everybody knows everybody, but we'll formalize this. And let's see, there's an introductory question. So say where you reside. So I'm in the Bluemont area, and also share any experience on crossing an Arlington street with that's more than two lanes wide. And I will talk about that a little bit more when I talk about mid-block crossing signage, because recently there have been more signs showing up saying, it's a law to stop for pedestrians. And I find that the compliance is quite low, especially outside of rush hour. It's actually better during rush hour. One person sort of stops and everybody else starts hesitating, and then they all stop. So to me, outside of rush hour, you could put your foot in the street and then step back, because cars tend to fly through and really aren't even, I don't even think that you're on the radar screen. So that's my start. I'm going to go from the bottom up here. So I'm going to start with Andrea, who actually was one of the early people that came on. And feel free to share video if you like. But Andrea, don't.
She's on mute.
She's on mute. Oh, there we go.
I think Andrea's had some connectivity issues. She's been
okay. So
dropping in and out.
Okay, we'll get back to her. I will now go to John Armstrong.
Hello.
Matt Jones.
I'm John Armstrong. I live in Lime Village. I have to drop at 8, so we need to vote. We can do it before then. Experience crossing. I try to avoid crossing roads that are more than 2 lanes. I think of my experience, I feel safer like on Fairfax Drive where there's a median. So I'm really crossing 2 lanes, and then I've got a refuge, and then I can cross 2 more. I try to avoid, the road near me is Washington Boulevard, kind of between Glebe and Kirkwood. That's got some crosswalks, but that are unprotected. And I'd rather not cross those, to be honest. I will pipe in that they're doing some curb bump outs over by Washington Lee at Quincy. So I keep seeing these things around the county, which makes me feel good. Some of these bump outs, making crossings shorter, building safer infrastructure for pedestrians, which is nice to see. I'll pass it on.
Thank you. I agree. Starting again from the bottom of my screen, I see Matt Jones has come on, so we'll work my way up my screen.
Hey everyone.
The question.
What'd you say?
Do you remember Matt? Did you hear what the question was?
No, what's the question?
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Introduce yourself, then where you reside, your civic association or area, and then feel free to share an experience about crossing an Arlington street with more than 2 lanes.
Oh, okay, great. Matt Jones, National Landing Business Improvement District. We are in Crystal City, National Landing. And it's good to see familiar faces. Hey, Mary. Hey, Pam. Hey, everybody. Crossing Richmond Highway, huh? it's a constant hot topic, but I mean, crossing at 20th especially, it's a lot happening right there, and it's not pleasant at all. And we're hoping that with with the completion of the new apartment building right there, that'll bring some better pedestrian facilities when crossing Richmond Highway. But of course, we have the Route 1 project that everyone knows about. That's, we're waiting. But yeah, it's not ideal at all. So hope to improve it.
Thank you, Matt. Andrea, I don't know if you want to try again.
Yeah, this time I'm on my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, and so sorry about that.
So I'll repeat the question here. So just introduce yourself. Feel free to tell us about the area you reside, and then tell us an experience about crossing a road more than 2 lanes wide in Arlington.
Okay, I live in on Arlington Ridge Road, and that and I'm a member of PAC, and that truthfully is that I can assure you that one of the most daunting of all crossings is there at Park Drive and Route 50. And this was something, that it's still daunting. But I can remember when we used to live in Arlington Forest and had 2 small children, and that it was really remarkable in terms as far as, so I am looking forward to seeing, what's going to happen there.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Patrick Kenny.
Good evening. So Patrick Kenny, member of the PAC, live in Boston, and then I guess an experience crossing more than 2 lanes, I guess, would be around the Columbia Pike area, and it seems like it's a very busy area, and I guess with a lot of construction going on, so I guess that would be basically looking for the the crosswalk and the signal, and making sure that there's some I guess better signaling there for safety reasons.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll go to Eric Malpelli.
Hi, Eric Malpelli, member of the PAC. I live right at Langston and Glebe. So lots of experience running across the 4 lanes of Glebe Road. It's 2/5 of a mile from the traffic light and crosswalk at Langston up to 26th Street, 2/5 of a mile with no crossing. So make that run quite often. I think it's a long-term candidate for a road diet because there actually isn't that much traffic, especially once you get to Marymount. And you could have a nice trail along it, but that's another conversation for another day. But if you ever hear in the news someone run over while carrying their dry cleaning on Glebe, that would. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and Mary Delau.
Hi, so I'm Mary Delau, and I live in Bloomont. I'm with Walk Arlington. And so I think I'll pick on a different street this time than the usual ones I travel. Carlin Springs Road, which I do cross often. And there's a part where if you're on the W&OD trail and you want to get to Carlin Springs Road, there's like a cut through that you can walk through the grass. And it's a desire path. Like it's so worn down because people bike or walk through this field that to get to Carlin Springs Road, it's a natural place where you'd want to walk. And then when you try to cross there really isn't a crosswalk or much of anything. And so I usually, and I shouldn't do this, but I usually walk and stand on this little like median, and then I do the second half of the crossing. And between cars in both directions are coming downhill. So they're coming fast. I don't think they see you. And you really shouldn't be crossing there, but I think people do all the time. And it's right by Kensington Street. I don't know if people know where I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
But I guess if I walked like a ways down Carlin Springs and tried to go to a crosswalk, I could. but I don't, and it just doesn't feel very safe. It never feels safe on that road, to be honest.
Thank you. Thank you. And Pam Van Hine.
Hi, Pam Van Hine, recording secretary for the PAC. There's so many options. Of course, there's Shirlington Road, and there's the traffic just does that. One lane will stop, the next lane doesn't stop. And there's a little bit better median now, but it's just really miserable to try to cross and makes me anxious every time. And that's the crossing from the 4-mile run trail over Shirlington Road. I have a crossing of Route 1 that I actually like at 33rd Street. It is 11 lanes of traffic,
Oh my God.
but so I mean, there's like 4 lanes northbound and I think 3 lanes south, no, 4 lanes southbound, 3 lanes northbound, 2 lanes for Crystal Drive at the beginning, and then 2 lanes of for the buses. But there are pedestrian refuges at 3 different spots, and it's basically a T intersection. So I only have to worry about vehicles coming from one direction. So it's actually fine. The only problem is that the pedestrian light's only 30 seconds, and you literally have to run across the whole thing, but it's actually safe. My problem in the area is South Glebe between Potomac Avenue and Route 1. And again, it's 4 lanes of traffic. There is a median, thank God, but the drivers do not stop. I have waited for like 15 cars to go by, and they just don't stop most of the time. And I have my various hand signals to give them, but unless I know they're going to stop, I will not attempt to until it's clear. So, anyway.
You need a flag for that crossing, right?
You need more than a flag. And there's lots of pedestrian signs, and it's one of those, I think, where the Virginia law should apply, and it should be that not yield, but I think they should have to stop there, because it is 4 lanes, and they don't stop. So that's one that I definitely think should be pursued.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We got somebody else that came on with, I guess the last digit's 37. I'm not sure if that's Tom Corns or who might be on.
Sounds like Tom.
Sounds like Tom, but very, very faint.
Yeah.
Well, how's that? I just use it. I'm calling on my phone.
Calling from his phone.
It sounds like you're getting a little louder, but not quite where we can fully hear you.
I've got the volume turned fully up. How's that?
Okay. Well, we will. I guess we'll try and attempt. If you could, Tom, if you could tell us what area you live in, and if you could describe a street that has more than 2 lanes, and just kind of your experience with that, crossing it.
Yeah, I don't have anything in mind. I have to make my pedestrian activity in more urban areas of town have not been a lot currently, and those in Arlington Boulevard, I have I'm patient and don't have an issue with crossing. The 5 points is always just the surface, and you find the safe route. So and I do that. It's just the furthest distance is the biggest time.
Well, Tom, thank you. I have to say I couldn't hear you all that well. I apologize for that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can on the connection.
I'm going to move on to David Patton. Thank you. Okay, David, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about. You probably know most of the crossings in Arlington, and so what's your favorite one you want to tell us about?
Well, I recognize all the ones that have been mentioned so far. My least favorite, and I'm going to pick on somebody that's not the county, is a Park Service road at Memorial Circle. And I'm frequently at Memorial Circle. I was there yesterday servicing counter equipment because we have bike and pedestrian counters on the sidewalks of Memorial Bridge. So I park in the circle and walk the various crosswalks there. And that's the scariest place I visit in the county regularly. It's actually in DC, but give me a break. And the traffic is heavy, and it's mostly either people who do it every day and are asleep at the wheel, or they're from out of town and they've never seen anything like it before. And it's kind of it's literally a deadly combination. People have been killed at that intersection, and it's there's no signals. There are some flashing beacons. There's a lot of signs and stop bars that tend to be ignored to one degree or another, and it's just not a fun place.
Which is your worst side, the north side or the south side?
Crossing the south side of the circle towards the south sidewalk of the bridge.
Okay.
And the approaching traffic is 2 lanes. You said more than 2 lanes. Well, it's 2 lanes in one direction, but it's the classic double threat problem that the traffic engineers talk about. If one car stops, there's no guarantee the second car will stop. And they're not given a stop signal, they're given a flashing yellow beacon because it's an RFB. And I wear a vest and I wave my hands and I do everything but sound a bugle to get their attention before crossing there.
So this is the east, is this the east side of the circle?
It's the south side of the
south
circle.
Side. Okay.
So
Side.
it's traffic approaching from the south. I guess it's
Okay.
Washington Boulevard there.
Yep.
Right.
And 60,000 cars a day, plus
Right.
or minus a few, and plenty of pedestrians, plenty of bicycle people, lots of tourists. The cemetery remains the most popular tourist site in the area. Lots of people recreate by biking and walking and skating across the bridge. And the last thing they're thinking, they got the buds on and all this. Last thing they're thinking about is keeping safe from traffic. And then boom, they're in heavy traffic.
Right.
And the drivers are not helping. Anyway, the area, I'm going to stop. The area has been a subject of multiple safety studies over the years, and they've made some improvements, but it's still a mess, in my view.
David, did you say this is in DC? I've always wondered about that island. It is DC technically, right?
It
On
is
the other
DC.
side of Boundary Channel.
Right. It's
Yeah.
on the
Hence the
east
name.
side of Boundary Channel. You have to cross the second bridge
then you're in-
between Memorial Circle and the cemetery. Now you're in Arlington. It's still federal property, but it's in Arlington now.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
I think we all agree.
All right. So before I start going through our agenda, actually, let me just pull up our agenda and just share what we'll be talking about here, and then we're going to change it up just a little bit. So one second here. We'll see if I can get a all right. Can everybody see the agenda there?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So we're going to, before we get into the first discussion, which will be about unsignaled mid-block crossings, I want to get our business out of the way because we do have a quorum, more than a quorum. We have like 2/3 of our membership in this meeting. And so I'd like to, I guess if, we have 3 sets of minutes, I take it, Pam, that need to be
Yes,
approved?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you want to introduce each one. We'll get somebody to,
Here's Jim Feaster.
oh, look at
Yep,
this.
everybody's
Wow.
here. That's amazing.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, technically we should do one at a time, but it just
Okay.
takes a minute. Okay, we'll start with the oldest one. And what I did was send out the July 10th one a couple days ago. I posted it to the Google group, and the 2 older ones are linked to the bottom of that one. So, and I also sent those out last month. So anyway, the first one is the minutes from May 8th, which was a joint backpack meeting. And I would like a motion to approve them.
I so move.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And any discussion? Okay. And if there's if we found anything later, we can always go back and change it.
We just say anybody opposed, and if we don't.
Anybody opposed to approving them? Everybody in favor of approving them, say aye. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, that's
Aye.
so much for that one.
Aye.
The next one is June 3rd. Oh my, which was also a joint backpack meeting. We've had several of those lately.
Right.
I would like a motion to approve that one.
I so move.
Thank you. And second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. And any discussion of the June 3rd meeting minutes? Okay. Any dissensions from approving them? Or forever hold your peace. And everyone in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oh, good.
Aye.
One more. This is
Okay.
easy.
And-
Yes, sir.
Oh, I just want to say, on a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, I think just anybody who opposes, if it's silent, will be sufficient. Otherwise, everybody has to open up their
Oh, yeah.
microphone.
Yeah.
So that's
Right,
fine.
Yeah. July 10th, the most recent one, which was just a PAC meeting. I would like a motion to approve these minutes.
I so move.
Thank you. Second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? And any dissensions, please say something. And all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We're done. Thank you.
All right.
That's great.
Thank you. It's good to get that done. It won't loom over us there. And then David, if you can start at some point incorporating these into our webpage, and as well as if you can get the video links on, because they come up pretty quickly. And
Well, they do now. There's a new method for getting them processed into YouTube links. The method of getting the YouTube link posted to the website is still clunky. Not trying to make any excuses. It's just takes a while.
Okay.
But
Well.
we get the video made and I can share the video out. Getting it posted to the web is a little tricky still.
When
Okay.
when the YouTube is out, I can find it, even if it's not formally posted. I can search for it and find it. And I put that link in the minutes, so all the recording links are in there, and they work,
That's great.
hopefully. But yeah, it'd be great to have these posted sometime.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Let's move on. Well, let's just quickly walk through the agenda as far as what we want to do. We're about 25 minutes in. We kind of used up our timing for the minutes approval, but that's good. With that, we're going to first have a discussion. We weren't able to get any representatives to our meeting today, so we're going to talk a little bit about unsignaled mid-block crossing signage, and I'm going to share some photos. And then if we have a minute or two, I'm going to share the response that we got back from the county manager on Gateway Park. So see if we can sort of squeeze both of those into there. Then I sent out the draft charter. Hopefully some folks had a chance to look at that. Pam and I have kind of put together some points, some of our thoughts, and maybe we can run down those bullets and just get a sense of what people feel about that, and then also have some discussion. It seems like the charter itself is not really that urgent because Valerie Mosley, when she sent it out, pretty much said, you can sort of accept it as is, or we'll get back to it after we kind of get into the master transportation plan. So, but I think it's still a good time to at least respond to her if we feel, and I think Pam and I'll speak for Pam as well, feel that there are some things that still need to change before we finalize it. So then we're going to talk just briefly about PAC legislative priorities. Next month we joint meeting, and we're going to have a representative from the county talk about some of their current legislative priorities and how we can sort of add ours into that process like we did last year. And then I'd like to have a brief discussion among our group about how things went when we talked with the county last month about PAC engagement on projects. And then I will leave some time for David to provide any updates on things that are happening in the county. But actually, one thing I may want to do here, I was going to put Mary all the way down at the end, but I think I'll give Mary an opportunity to talk, especially because the county fair, I believe, is starting tonight. And
Yes.
there may be some need for volunteers. So I will let you talk, or I'll give you the microphone, and then I'll start with our discussions after that.
Well, thank you. So yes, indeed, we're at the fair again this year on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we would love help if anybody wants to come. I know Pam signed up, and I had asked the BAC, and I didn't bother the PAC because it's more like bike stuff. I mean, we'll have the walkabout brochures, but that's about as much walk as there is. So I didn't want to like presume people would want to help, but yes, we would love to have whoever wants to come. And so we have different, like a lot of different partners doing e-bike demos. And of course, people can ride the Bike Arlington cargo bikes if they want. We'll be on the basketball court. And then on Friday, we'll have Conti's, who was with us last year. And they just bring bikes that have some kind of trailer that you could put kids on, or they had a couple e-bikes last year that had like a back seat that could hold the weight of an adult, like well over 100 pounds. And I think they had another type of cargo bike, like the one with the capacity in the back. So they're there on Friday. And then we have one of the scooter companies. We have Bird/Spin on Friday. Then on Saturday, we have Bikes at Vienna, finally, who I've wanted for many years, and they have adaptive bikes. So they are bringing several recumbent bikes like the tadpole trikes that have if you have some physical challenges that it's not comfortable for you to ride a standard bike, these bikes are comfortable for a lot of people. And then he'll bring a trike and something called a Berkel bike, which I didn't know what it was, but I think like, if I'm not mistaken, somehow you use your hands when you pedal. So that's going to be really neat, like all of his stuff. And that's just a small local business. And then we will also have, that day is the other scooter company, Lime. And then on Sunday, we have Trek Ballston, who's also our Bike to Work Day Pit Stop co-host. So I have a sign up genius. And if anybody's interested, I could just drop it in the chat. And we have like a good number of volunteers, but we can always use more. And there's a few empty slots. And I would say, if anybody just wants to sign up, they could even email me. Maybe that's better at this point. I'll put in the chat the hours that we need help. And then if anybody wants to just email me and sign up, we would very much appreciate it. And then another fun walk thing is that, granted, this isn't until November, but Friends of the Mount Vernon Trail asked us if we'd want to partner again on the Moonlight Monument Walk, which is a stargazing walk. And we did that last year, and it was the worst weather imaginable. So I think there were like over 100 people signed up, and then we had a handful. So maybe we'll get lucky this year. And there's also a walk with the 9/11. It's a 9/11 memorial walk. And I know we're going to help support and promote that. And that's in October. So we have a few things going on here and there. But yes, thank you for the opportunity. And I'll drop it in the chat.
Okay,
Fair information.
thank you. Yeah, and
Sure.
if you can remind us next month on both of those walks. Well, I guess the September 11th walk, that's the date of our, is it gonna be the weekend before or the weekend after September 11th that walk
No,
is?
see, I think it won't be quite then. So we
Okay.
have some time.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, give me just a moment here. I'm gonna try and bring up the information on the crossing. So let me see if I can bring up my email here. I'm gonna share it, and then I'm gonna enlarge it a little bit so people can see it. All right. And it may be a little bit small. Please let me know if you can see these images. And let's see if I can make them bigger. All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, we can't read the text, but the photos are fine.
Okay. I'm going to bring them up a little bit. I'll explain what I'm. Let's see. I'll explain what I'm showing you here. All right. So this is. I brought this up recently, I guess, with David, and so there has been a change in the Virginia law that that at least for, if I understand correctly, for roads more than 2 lanes wide, where there are crossings, unsignaled crossings, that drivers are supposed to stop for pedestrians in those crosswalks. And little by little, the county has been changing out some of the signage and adding some signage. But as you can see here, and hopefully this is big enough for folks to see, we have on here at this mid-block crossing. So we have at the crosswalk, there is a yield to pedestrians. And then in front of the crosswalk, there's a sign, and this is on this side of the street. And it's also on the other side of the street. There's a sign that tells cars where they're supposed to stop. So this is at a T intersection. This is at, I believe, North 10th Street and George Mason. So you can kind of see this. So the one thing that's happened is we now have a stop instead of a yield. So I think we're getting some better compliance with that, but there is one inconsistency that I wanted to point out, and that is, I'm going to show you on the next photo here, and wish I could see if I can make it a little bit larger. You can see we have sort of the same thing. There's tree cover here, so it's a little harder to see, and some of it is obscured by trees. But we have that stop for pedestrians on either side. We have, you can kind of see it behind the tree. We have the yellow yield sign. But in addition to that, and it may not be the most prominent, especially if you're in the far right lane, there is another sign, and that sign, I'm going to show you what that looks like up here. Says state law, stop for pedestrians within the crosswalk. Now, these are inconsistently placed, at least two T intersections on George Mason, one at North 10th and one at North 11th. One of them has a sign and the other does not. It may also be due to where it's convenient to put it. In this case, there is actually a little in the area of refuge. On the other side of it, there's a little, I don't know if you want to call it a concrete nose. There's a little piece that comes out there, and they've mounted it there, and it actually is surviving. If I go back to this one, which is actually on Washington Boulevard, I've seen a lot of these mowed down. People, when they go around the corner and turn, you can actually see this has been hit before. You can actually see some tire treads on the little pedestrian there. But it does, to me, at least I think it may, when it is prominent there, may give a little more credence because it says state law. And when you look at the other images, which just say stop here for, it doesn't say whether it's a law or not. And a lot of folks have not been educated about that yet either. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of bring that up. I know the county is going through the process of changing things, and I'm sure they're not finished doing that. But I really want to understand why there's an inconsistency where in some cases there's an actual bollard there, that flexible bollard that says, that this is the state law. And in other cases, and here's actually that we got a response from the TE&O folks, which kind of shows what's in the I guess the Manual of Uniform Traffic, what is it, MUTCD?
Control devices.
Control devices. And it shows pretty much what's there, but does not show that little pedestrian bollard that says it's the state law. But I could see that would not show up in here because telling people whether or not it's a state law would not be part of kind of this uniform of traffic signal information. I think that's something in addition that the state is probably displaying. Would that be reasonable to say that, David?
I think so. In the screen you're sharing right now, at the bottom, it says the R1-5 and the yield lines are replaced with the R1-5B and stop lines in states that require stop to pedestrians, which Virginia is now one of those states. So
Right.
they make the most universal drawing there and then have the footnote that some states go further, and Virginia is now one of those. I need to say one thing though, Eric. The yellow diamonds are not yield signs. The yellow diamonds indicate where the crossing is. They are not indicating that you have to yield to pedestrians. So the only yield and or stop signs in this layout are the ones you point out where it says yield here or stop here for peds. The yellow signs are just marking where the crossing is. And I'm not a traffic engineer. This is not the world I work in. But I work right down the hall from these folks. And I work with Kevin Cassidy all the time. And I keep learning stuff. And that's clear in his written message that the yellow signs and the white signs with the pedestrian are doing different things. And you're absolutely right that drivers are not well educated about this stuff.
Right.
And
Well,
the
third, I just want to say the third piece to this is this bollard that
Sure.
that has shown up.
And I think that's optional, but I don't know. I don't know why they're, and like you say, they're mowed down all the time. The ones on Washington Boulevard that John Armstrong probably sees every day are frequently mown down. And I don't know how to explain that. It's not my department, and it's a maintenance issue. You know, the other kinds of bollards we see, they're always getting mowed down. So there's a budget for replacing mowed down bollards, and I don't know the magnitude of that. And as you grant, this is a transition period. You know, they're rolling these signs out. The committee heard from Dan Neighbors. They had a TE&O a few months ago about the first wave of these that had been installed. He had the numbers and the locations, and it's not something I keep up on a regular basis. And it's new to drivers, so they're learning or ignoring as drivers do. And that's all. That's all I want to say.
All
And
right,
there's no
well,
enforcement.
well,
Then,
while,
and then there's that. Yeah.
okay. Well, while we got all our folks here, I guess I'd like to open it up to get your opinions on this. I feel like this is something worth mentioning, and I at least feel that where that this indicator that says it's a state law that you have to stop, that adds one more level to say, you you should be stopping for pedestrians. Does it actually create more compliance? I can't say. I don't know that any of us know at this point yet, but I would like to get some opinions about this because I feel this is a safety issue, certainly for folks that uh, as you do cross here and the signs have changed. Do you feel more comfortable? Do you feel that you have to be just as vigilant? What are your thoughts? So I'm opening it up. Anybody like to comment on it? All right, got Andrea and then Jim.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead, Andrea.
absolutely, yeah, I absolutely agree in terms of having state law, on the bollard. It does mean something. It's not just, Arlington County is doing yet something again. So I absolutely agree. And I quite frankly like the bollards, and I'm very glad the county is doing a good job, as far as I can tell, putting them back up. Uh, God knows they have enough of them to put back up, right? But anyway, so I agree with you.
Thank you. Just one note in report a problem, because I've reported these a lot. There is a separate category for flexible bollards that are down. So so it's actually, once you find where it is, it's easy to get back to it. So I am going to let Jim, if you'd like to weigh in here.
Just a comment. Yes, I mean, I agree that the state law, to stop for state law, could be more prominent and everything. But let me just comment on the changes that I have seen in the Boston area. I now live at the Jefferson, and so we walk around here. And my wife is a member of the walking club, and so they walk around here, and they've commented on the quality of the changes that they've seen for the marking of the lanes and marking of the bike lanes and the marking of the turn lanes are all quite good. I mean, people have commented on that, and I myself have seen that. And I have not. If I had to comment on the quality of the drivers, I mean, I would say more. I have seen more of them obedient and observant than not. And the pedestrians are what they are. I think they're all very alert and cautious, especially, obviously they live here, so that they're alert. But anyway, let me just comment on the changes brought about by Vision Zero, and those changes in this area, I think, have made a difference.
Well, thank you. I agree. I think that Vision Zero is doing a lot, and they are doing a lot of analysis and when they addressed us last month, though it was kind of a short presentation, they talked about some of the things that they've been doing. So thanks. Does anybody else want to comment on this before I move on? Okay, so I'm going to sort of switch gears here. I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to see if I can bring up the county manager's letter. Give me just a moment to find it. Okay.
Eric, one quick thing I wanted to
Sure.
interject.
Go
This
ahead.
is Mary.
Go ahead,
I
Mary.
couldn't seem to share And this is like off topic. I couldn't seem to share the information about the fair. Like I can't access the chat. So maybe it's because I'm in the web browser. So I'll just
Oh.
send an email to the Google group later, just so you all about the fair. So you'll have the information.
Okay.
I'm going to share this. Let's hope I can.
Mary, if you want to send it to me as an email, I can pop it into the chat.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks.
All right. Let me know when folks can see this letter that came
Yes.
from Mark Schwartz. So I'm not going to read the whole letter. I'll just kind of talk about the highlights. So our big concern was both accessibility and safety, safe and accessible access to the park from the streets around the park. And in many cases, you're crossing more than 2 lanes. Sometimes you're crossing as many as 4 or 5 lanes to get into the park. The response that we got, I think, in some ways addressed this by saying that that he's saying that the county has an interdepartmental team that are looking at this and making some recommendations. I think that's good. He does sort of still indicate that this park concept is sort of an independent concept of what's sort of happening around it. And then he offers where there may be some new connections, some existing and some new connections into the park. But and he actually talks about North Moore Street, I think is the they're adding a crossing. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Pam, you can weigh in, but we kind of felt that that was really not a great and appropriate addition. That with all the number of lanes that are there, it doesn't really make it any significantly safer.
Yeah, and the points that he raised in the letter about, maintaining the existing pedestrian bridge on the north side, new bridge over North Fort Myer Drive, etc., adding pedestrian crossing at Northmore. Those were all what was already in their proposed plans. It's nothing new. And we have pointed out that these are not adequate. And the existing condition is a very safe, albeit not totally accessible, uh, bridge to get from the south side of the park over into the park, and you have to cross through Langston Boulevard, which is massive, but currently you can take this bridge over there, and it's very safe, and there's wonderful broad bridges that connect the different sections over Fort Myer Drive. Uh, their plans, most of their plans still have some kind of bridge over Fort Myer, but one of them has no plans, which is crazy. And only one of the plans suggests keeping the connection on the north side over to crossing westbound Langston Boulevard. Again, these are all really nasty crossings, and one of the ones that Eric mentioned is actually at the corner of, oh, what is the L Street there? Lynn? Yeah, Lynn and
North
Langston.
Lynn.
There's no pedestrian crossing there. And I don't know that there ever was. So there's no way, if you're there, which a lot of people are going to be there, there's no way to get from there over into the park. Now, if you're on the north side, there's crosswalks, but on the south side,
Right.
there's no crosswalks. The only crossing will be at Moore, and that's really a terrible location to try
So
to cross all these lanes.
So that's what they call the Esplanade, right? But what you're saying
Yes.
is only the north
Yeah.
end of the Esplanade, not the south end of it. There's no crossing there.
Right, yeah.
And that's because a lot of cars are coming, I guess they're coming eastbound, and they're
Some,
there are
right,
multiple turns that are
right.
going northbound, and either going over the Key Bridge or getting on the GW Parkway or heading west again. So there's just so much going on at that spot.
Right.
So, yeah, that I don't feel. I mean, I think I will send a letter, just to, a quick thank you. But I do feel that as this develops, I think we still need to sort of beat our drum and say that that there are a lot of nice things that they're adding into the park, but getting there is going to be more challenging, especially with the removal of the south connection to the park. So, does anybody else want to comment before we go on to the next item? Oh, I see that David does. So go ahead,
Yeah,
David.
I raised my hand. I brought this up in our team meeting yesterday because for a little bit different reason. I thought it was a little bit shabby that I didn't hear back from my colleagues in the Parks Department to come and talk about this park project to the Pedestrian Committee. We asked last month very politely with plenty of advance notice. I asked again this month with plenty of advance notice, and didn't get much of a response. So I brought it up in my team meeting, my team of planners yesterday, and one of my colleagues is the transportation link or liaison to the Gateway Park group. Her name's Inubidun Obakoya. She's also staffs the Transportation Commission, and she is our TE&O, or sorry, our DOT rep on the. Somebody has their sound on, I think. Somebody's sound is bleeding into this.
Let's see if I can mute anybody. There is Tom, you may be on both your phone and your video. I wonder if you could disconnect one of the two.
Or I can do it. Tom, I'm going to mute your phone.
Okay.
Sorry
I
about
think
that.
you just did it. Thank you.
I have the power of the mute button. Anyway, well, maybe you'd rather listen to Tom's phone than to me anyway.
But Ms. Obakoya has addressed us on other issues before in the past. Yeah.
Right. She's great. And I did not know that she was our rep to the Gateway Park Planning Group. So a couple of things I learned is all of the comments from the PAC have made it into the bundle of comments that the planning group has received from everybody. I hope they receive a bit of special attention because of the status of this group being an official advisory body. I can't guarantee that, but I heard that, yes, they're being attended to, and there you have it. And further, about the crossing of eastbound Langston on the Roslyn side of the park, there are restrictions about how many crosswalks can be supported there because that's a VDOT road. And they have regulations about the spacing of crosswalks on state highways, or actually US highways, US 29. So that's a continuing concern of the parks planners. But you're absolutely right that in their view, this is a park and it's bounded by roads, and the scope of the park design does not include the roads. So whatever accommodation of the transportation features happens in the context of designing this park is not going to be part of the park design. And so that is just a signal to stay aware, stay alert, stay engaged, and keep pushing for the things that are important here. And that it may be through me and my colleagues in DOT, it may be through the next public engagement process. I'm not sure what form that takes exactly, but it won't be through the planning of the park features and the park amenities, which is what we've been seeing so far. So that's about as much as I know, and it's current as of yesterday.
Well, do you think Ms. Obakoya could address us maybe in October?
It's possible. I can ask.
That might be good. After our joint meeting, it might be good to have that as an item.
Okay.
And Pam, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, a question for David. David, did you actually talk to Bridget about this? Or you
Talk to whom?
To Bridget about, since this is her role? Okay.
Yes.
And what did she say? Other than
Well, just that she's,
Okay.
I don't know how long she's been our liaison to the Gateway Park effort, but she has been and is now. Um, there's a lot going on inside the office that I don't know about. And this has been one of those things. And in my note to the parks people, I said, is there someone repping DOT in your planning effort? And I learned that, oh yeah, it's the woman who sits across the aisle from me. I didn't know that. So, shame on me, but none of us knows everything that's going on. So now we're getting a visual of Tom. So there's Tom walking into his office library.
Mm.
So I will follow up with
Okay,
Ms. Ovakoya.
thank you very much. I'm going to move on to the next part of the discussion. I think that is, if I've gotten everything right, it should be about our the charter. Okay.
Okay.
So let's see here. I believe I have a copy of the charter here. It is very small. I'm not going to go through that part, but I am going to try and enlarge the suggested revision items. Let me see if I can make that large enough that that folks can see and we can talk about this. I think we got everything here. Can folks see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So just to kind of give some background to folks, we've been engaged with Valerie Mosley, both the PAC and the BAC, and I believe also the Transit Committee as well, which we haven't had much interaction with them or even have seen their charter. But we've had like 2 or 3 rounds of essentially revisions for the charter. So I just want to run down some of these things here, some items that have been removed, and I'd like to get some feedback from folks as I go through this. So I'm going to sort of hit one at a time and open it up for folks to kind of agree, disagree, or have any other thoughts. And if anybody has also sort of perused the charter that I sent out and have any additional thoughts to add to this list, that would be good. And my goal here is to get back to Valerie saying that that I'm working with our committee, that we're looking at this. We've already come up with kind of a list of things, and when it's appropriate time, we'd like to share that with you. And so that's at least my thought, but at least acknowledge this. When she sent it out, she said she was going to be on vacation, and then she was going to be working on the master transportation plan. So this would not be her high priority item. So first thing, just bullet number 1 is just there was a statement that we had actually had in there, which was that accommodations that are accessible, safe, and comfortable and connected for pedestrians. And that was in I believe the starting part, the scope of
It's
the charter.
under purpose and mission.
Purpose.
Yeah, and it was
Okay,
the second
okay.
paragraph in
Purpose
there.
and mission, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
purpose and mission, sorry. And that got removed. There was also, I believe, we grabbed this as well from, I think that the Bicycle Advisory Committee also had the other one about reduced vehicular air pollution. So both of those got pulled out. Not exactly sure why. They're not very controversial items, but maybe, there might have been a sense that they wanted to just shorten it. But to me and to Pam, we feel that these are significant items, and we just didn't feel that they should be pulled out. Second item, which actually was brought up by Cynthia from the back, they sort of have grouped safety and health together in terms of, now this is under, I think, scope.
No, it's scope, purpose, and mission.
Scope,
There are a lot of
okay.
things wrong with purpose and
Okay,
mission.
okay, sorry. Yeah, I guess if we go back up to here, okay. I thought they were, okay. There's a little bit under purpose and mission, and then there are a lot of bulleted items that were under scope. So really the scope is kind of a more detailed beyond the what's in the purpose and mission. But anyway, so safety and health we felt should be kind of separate bulletized because they do mean two different things. There's certainly a health aspect of walking, but I think safety has been at least pointed out by many of us as the main reason for joining the PAC, because safety concerns are so high on our list. So another item here was the Department of Parks are advising the Department of Parks seem to disappear. And we
now we're under
do,
scope.
yeah. So not sure why that got pulled out. Not only do we advise just environmental services, we're also in or transportation. We also we provide feedback on parks. So we think that should remain under our scope as well. See the next item. That what we had in there that said that the committee may advise the county manager on additional topics as appropriate and needed. That one got pulled out. We're not sure why. Certainly, I think, again, I don't see that as a very controversial thing. I don't know why we need to narrow our scope so much that if other topics come up that we can't speak about them. So especially if they're related to our mission. So let's see. Another thing that we had in there was we said about advising on high priority safety issues, meeting a meeting. And I think I don't think we don't want to put the county in the bind by maybe saying needing immediate attention, but I think we should still note that we advise on high priority safety issues. And then the next one was on, we'd like to add back additional topics as appropriate and needed. So now maybe that one was already there. Well, I had that in there twice. Okay. So that was the same thing. But again, I need to edit this, but I think that should be a single item there that needs to go back in. Vision Zero seemed to be dropped from the scope, and we'd like to put that back in. I guess we were sort of important in actually calling for the county to have a Vision Zero program. The county manager sort of came back to us and said, well, if you want to put money for Vision Zero, that means something else has to come out. But we felt that the safety aspect of Vision Zero was very important. And so I believe as a committee, it's also important to acknowledge that that's part of our scope. So I don't know, it's not, everybody's kind of quiet here. I'd like to get some feedback from folks. Any thoughts on these items here so far? Tom, do you have a thought? You're muted at this time.
Jim Feaster has his hand up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Jim,
Well, yeah, I read through these. I thought these all were useful and thoughtful. So I have no dissent with
Okay.
any of them. I think go forward.
okay. Well, I'll put them
Thank you.
together. Did anybody have, oh, Tom, if you want to unmute yourself, maybe you can add what you wanted to say. Or maybe your microphone might not be working. Does, it does say unverified, so I don't know, but,
We all do.
oh, okay. No, but your microphone does, it's still listed as mute.
I just turned Tom's computer connection on, unmuted.
Okay. Well, Tom, if you don't mind, maybe you can type something in the chat, because we're not able to. So, all right, thank you. Anyway, thanks, Jim, for giving feedback on this. Does anybody have anything else from looking at the charter that they would like to add, or either something that is not even there that you feel would be good to add to the charter, or you feel that other items that have been removed that you feel might should be added back in? Any thoughts on that? Okay, Pam, I see your hands up.
Yeah, one thing that the BAC has raised that we may want to consider, although I strongly disagree with it, is that their system of voting is whatever number of people vote, that's satisfactory. They do not require a quorum. And I strongly feel that we should have a quorum when we're voting. It shouldn't be that difficult, and I'm perfectly fine to track down people to make sure they vote. And when I've done that, people do vote.
Okay.
But that's Robert's rules, and I am not comfortable with just having a handful of people voting one way or the other. I think it's important to really show that people support it or don't support it.
Well, let me just, I guess in response to that, I agree with you. Also, I think if we can, I mean, there may be some times where it's not possible to reach everybody, and we need to make a decision on something soon, and those would be the exceptions to the rule. But I think by at least having a majority, or I should say, a quorum, that really shows that the group supports that item. So I think it's important to do that where we can. So,
And there's some flexibility in the language that, in emergencies, you can do this and this and this and that. You don't have to do it all in person. You don't have to do it all at the meeting. You can follow up with emails. You can call people. You can get around to get the number of votes you need.
right.
And that's great to have that flexibility. That was not in there before.
Good. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Anything they'd like to add? Again, it's kind of quiet, but I do want to give everybody a chance to speak about this. All right. Well, then I'm going to move on. I will craft a response back to Valerie. I'm not sure I'm going to put all these details now. I may first say, acknowledge that we received her information. We understand that this is not a high priority for her right now, that we would like to provide our feedback to her when she feels it would be appropriate. And then I'll wait till what I hear from her. And if she says, send them on now, then I will gather them together and send them back to her. So, does that sound good?
Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
just encourage everyone to look at them if you haven't looked at them, and to send you any comments.
Yes. So
That would be
please
great.
do that. Thank you. Thank you, Pam. All right, I'm going to move on to the next item that we have. So I'm going to stop sharing this.
And just to interject, I just posted Mary's information about the county fair in the chat. So the openings for volunteers and her contact email are in the chat now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so let's talk about legislative priorities for a little bit. At least what I want to do is bring up the ones that we put forward last year, and then I'd like to get feedback from others here and any other thoughts on what we can put forward. Most of the ones that were last year were actually bicycle related. So let's see here. Give me a second here. I'm going to try and share this one more time. All right, and I'll walk through this with everyone. Again, let me know when you can see it.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So the priorities last year, we had primary and secondary. The first one was funding for Metro or the WMATA. So that was a big number one, and I think that will still be a big number one for us. I will feel, but I'd like to get some feedback from folks. And then this other item about allowing bicyclists to cross streets on all pedestrian signals. I don't know if any of these actually passed. And
I don't think
my
so.
feeling is that the answer is probably no. Well, Metro funding probably did, but other than that, I'm not sure.
It's an ongoing issue, though.
Right. Right. I know Metro is starting to worry about being insolvent. So yes,
Yeah.
it's a big issue. Anyway, yeah, I don't think this. My guess is that this will also be brought up again by the Bicycle Advisory Committee. Fund Vision Zero and transportation safety. Again, I think that is one that's a priority, at least that I'm signed on to. I would think most folks would feel that that is a legislative priority to put funding in that direction. Does anybody have any concerns one way or another on that item? All right, I'll move on. Allow bicyclists to ride side by side, which again, I know that has not passed. Allow safety stops for bicyclists. So treating stop signs as yield signs for cyclists, that did not pass either. Again, pretty heavy on the bicyclist items. Secondary priorities, remove contributory negligence in the law in Virginia. Certainly, I think that affects both pedestrians and bicyclists. I'd like to see that go away. The thought that if you have 1% potential involvement, that they consider that you're potentially at fault as well. You're contributing to that, so it would be good to get rid of that law. I don't know how many states actually have that law, but it is kind of a backwards law, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So require side underguards on trucks statewide. Again, I think that would be good. That's mainly for cyclists, but people have probably been dragged under trucks as well, especially a truck that doesn't yield to pedestrians. So I think that's I would keep that one there. And then enable municipalities to have e-bike rebate programs. Again, another bicycle item. And then finally, provide broader authority to local cities and counties to automate traffic enforcement. I think that's a good one. I think we would like to see more automated traffic enforcement, more red light cameras, more and potentially even cameras for in crosswalks and other things like that. Speed items as well in zones. Right now, I think they're allowed in only in school zones, but expansion of that would be good as well.
I think there's a quota also, how many you can have per
Right.
jurisdiction.
Right, and construction zones, I think.
Mhm.
And I think it's like
And-
60.
And right turn on red enforcement comes up in that discussion as well.
So with this is again what was put forward last year. There's 3 or 4 items that I think kind of fall on both pedestrians and cyclists. I don't know that we have any very specific legislative priorities just for pedestrians here, but my question to folks, and it looks like, let me just finish here for a second, Dave, would be to have you all brainstorm a little bit. Do you have any thoughts right now that we can have as we approach our meeting next month? It would be good to come to the meeting with at least a few thoughts on legislative priorities for the year. So with that, David, you had your visual hand up.
A couple of things. So Ilana, who's legislative liaison in the manager's office, she has confirmed for coming to the September 11th meeting. And then something that's missing from this letter from a year ago is the stop for pedestrians. Because that was enacted. Was that not a request? Was that not something that the committee and the county signed up on?
I believe it was not.
I think it may have been in a prior letter.
Might have been.
Because it was approved last year.
Right,
So there would be no need to talk about it in the fall.
Got it. Because it was a
hope that's the
perennial
answer.
request for many
Yeah,
years and then
yeah.
was enacted. Okay.
Right.
That explains that.
But with that, we got
Yeah.
heads together here. Does anybody have any thoughts for this coming legislative period? Anything that would be a good legislative priority for pedestrians? Nothing new is coming to anybody's mind? All right. I see Tom
Actually-
is speaking, but go ahead. Was that Eric?
Yeah. One thought, this is more of a question than a specific suggestion. With, the Dillon State rule issues, are there things that might not be legislative fixes, like make this legal or change this law, but something that delegates more power to localities on, improvements that we might want to make kind of on a rolling basis in the future on key streets like Glebe I was mentioning, or Langston Boulevard, or one of the other VDOT roads, or even county roads where maybe there's state rules that supersede what our county rules are.
So you're saying one a way to give localities a little more power to on a state road to actually make some ordinances or whatever specific to the roads that go through their county. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like a more general discretionary authority for
Mhm.
Arlington to do any number of things, or any locality, not specific to Arlington. I realize that's against kind of the theme of these letters and would take some thinking and is sort of bigger asks of the state.
So it's almost parallel to this, provide broader authority. In this case, it was specifically for automated traffic enforcement, but we're saying provide broader authority for doing other additional treatments or things within our jurisdiction.
Yeah, so something along
Well,
those lines, realizing it need to be thought.
Okay. Well, I think that's something we can bring to the table next time when we're talking with Ilana. I'm sorry, it's not, what's her name?
Alana. Yeah.
Ilana. She has a new
Okay.
last name.
Okay. All right. All right. Any other thoughts? I know we're kind of putting people on the spot, and I would appreciate if for everyone to think about this over the next month, and if things do come up, to send them my way. That would be great. And that would be very helpful. I'm getting a regard from Tom on that. So, all right. Anything else before we move on to the next topic here? All right, then I will close this out. We'll go on to the next topic. And I don't think I have any. I don't think on that one that I have anything specific to share. Okay, so this is following up on the, and let me just bring the agenda back up. I might as well share the agenda while I'm talking. So the next item was to talk a little bit about our kind of what happened last month when we brought Nate Graham and Christine Baker to our committee, and they gave us some feedback. I took some notes, and I may just look at my notes here from when I went back and listened to the video from last month. It was actually quite a large part of our meeting, that discussion about that. So I think, and maybe just to refresh people's minds a little bit, Nate started out talking about that he had approached our committee before and talked about their 6-step engagement process and how that works with projects, and really kind of sort of went over that process again. And then he really discussed, part of the reasons why they are engaging that way, that they want to cast a wider net, and that they want to get more and more diverse opinions on things. So, and then he started talking, I guess we got some people provided feedback. He was talking about the role of the committees. He felt would not be to sort of comment on individual projects in the way that we had done before, and get presentations in the way before. He was thinking that we would sort of comment or provide feedback on broader issues. He wasn't very specific about the broader issues, but he did. I guess the one thing he was specific about was the MTP update, which is the Master Transportation Plan update, which he mentioned that it would be an important role for us to be engaged with that. And then what else? He also encouraged us to provide comments individually or sending them to the county manager on his projects, but basically working through his engagement process, either through their webinars or the project websites, as opposed to, again, having folks coming to our committees. And part of that, and I think David was part of that discussion, saying that it is a big lift for all the project managers to go to all the meetings. So understood. I think there was some discussion about maybe consolidating some of that, but still coming to us on a periodic basis. I don't believe we ever got into any details about that, but we talked about maybe, and I've had some discussions with David as well, that maybe even bringing folks in on a quarterly basis, and maybe bring someone from Parks in quarterly, bring somebody from who can represent a lot of the projects that are coming through quarterly, someone from TE&O that can talk about initiatives that they're doing, maybe not project specific, but maybe about initiatives that they're doing. So there was some discussion about that. He also sort of what else did he say here? He wasn't sure about our future role. He did say, I need to think about that. And Christine, I think, sort of cut in and said that, it was important to engage with us. But he then kind of talked about, I think when Cynthia said that she would like, she talked about specifically about Shirlington Road and how we've tried to engage, or at least her committee has tried to engage multiple times on what's happening on Shirlington Road, the sort of temporary situations over near Jenny Dean Park and that area, and just that she hasn't gotten much feedback or even being able to engage on a lot of these things. So Nate then kind of said, "Oh, you're talking about shop talk and maybe or talking shop," is what he said, and he was saying, well, maybe we need to engage every once in a while just to kind of talk about what's happening in the industry, what's happening out there. And then towards the end, I believe there was some discussion about trying to make our committees more diverse, but then with the dilemma on how do we make that happen? Especially at this point, there hasn't been any specific efforts from the county or the county manager to bring in or appoint new people to our committees, or even to do any sort of recruitment out there. So, and actually that goes back to one of the comments I had on the charter, is it would be good to have the county do some recruitment. I think the county can cast a much larger net than us, the 10, 11 of us individuals, going out. And county does send out messaging all the time. I think they could certainly say, you could put something out saying they're looking for members. If you're interested in these areas, please apply or please come to the meeting. So I think that there are some efforts that the county could do that could pay off in getting more folks to these committees. So anyway, that's kind of what we talked about. I wanted to get feedback from you all. What do you think? Do you think that we got a good discussion about engagement, or do you think we kind of whined a little bit and the county brought somebody to kind of tell us this is the way it is, and that kind of said, hey, we've kind of moved on to a new direction. we're engaging in a different, you can provide some assistance, but you're kind of like the old wave and we have a new wave. So anyway, wanted to get your thoughts. I know that I speak a lot. I see David and Pam have their hands up, and that's good, but I would like to get some feedback from the other folks that are on here as well. So I'll start with David, and
take Pam first, because
okay,
I gotta take Pam on.
All right.
I'm trying to think of a polite word, and I think my best word is frustrating. And I think, and I hope we made the point that yes, we understand the new public engagement system and how it's valuable, but we still want to have specific engagement with the PAC, and there is value of having engagement with the PAC and similar groups. And we are doing it as a committee as opposed to individuals with the existing public engagement. So we'll see. One thing a bit hopeful about Nate's ending is that if he's thinking about it, and hopefully he'll get back to us. And David, and maybe you will raise this, you had, I guess, was a conversation with Eric that you've been talking to your team, and that perhaps some people are willing to have these quarterly meetings. So that's it for now.
I guess that's my cue. So I echo everything that Pam just said, and I have taken that position with my colleagues, both Nate and the people in the communications side of things, and Christine. We had a staff meeting among us last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, and with my working group, my close working group, who are the planners and the project managers, and making the point very clearly, as Pam just did, that the committees, and this one in particular, have a different makeup than people who come to an evening meeting once in a while for something that's happening in their neighborhood, say. You all are folks who follow these issues for a long time, for years and years, go to lots of meetings, write good letters, engage with thoughtful comments, and that's different from, it's different from, I'm not going to say it's superior to, it's a different kind of engagement than neighbors who show up much less frequently and much more casually to weigh in on something. And I think there's a lot of value in that, and I get acknowledgement of that when I bring that up. And then it goes to, and you're right that it's tied to some of the features of the charter document. And Pam's kitty cat wants to speak to.
This is Debbie.
Debbie?
Devi, Devi. It's a Hindu word for
Debbie.
goddess.
Yes. Isn't that, it's Sanskrit or Hindi, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's acknowledgement of that. There's acceptance of that reality. And there's a bit of a tug going on between the regular workings of this group, the regular workings of the projects, the charter that's trying to solidify some of these relationships. So there's a lot of sympathy for that position. I don't think we've carried the day yet, but there is some acceptance or acknowledgement that, yeah, maybe we can send the project managers around on a rotation or on a quarterly basis or something. And that would likely be Jason Widstrom, who is the manager. No, wait a minute. He's the supervisor of the project managers. We have 10 project managers, I think, in my bureau. That's not parks. It's not TE&O. It's not any of the other engineering people. It's just the transportation capital projects managers. And boy, we have a lot of history here. We used to get a lot of, very detailed briefings from them, and everybody agrees that we've moved on to a new formal process that doesn't allow for a lot of that, but some of that probably is still a good idea. And then it's about at what stage of the planning and how often and how much and how deep and all of that. So it's another thing that's in development, but I would advise people not to suggest that the PAC is being dismissed out of hand and that the comments are not honored or worthwhile or valuable. I think that's not the case. I think that the engagement with the committee is valuable, but I think speaking up for that has also been valuable. So I'm going to stop. That's enough.
All right. Before I go to you, Pam, I just want to see if Eric or Jim or Tom might want to at least weigh in, at least on if they have any thoughts on this. I see Jim is up.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was not at the last meeting. I was different time zone, so don't feel I can call.
Do you have any thoughts, I guess, as a member? And as especially that there has been less frequent. I mean, I guess what I would say is we have to sort of beat the bushes in some ways to get information about things that are going on. And even when I engage with David, he has to beat the bushes sometimes to get that information. And just what your thoughts are, as a volunteer, who's involved with this committee, and you're putting your time
Sure.
in, and
Well, no,
just
I do think, I think David expressed it correctly. I mean, we are alert to all the time to projects taking place wherever. It's not it's not just that it's in our neighborhood. Oh, it's that we are cognizant of the effect of a project on our mission. So I think it would be, especially if we could participate in the review of these projects at some point.
I'm going to throw another log on the fire here. I hope I'm not out of order, but you reminded me of something just now, Jim. And that is, there are people among my colleagues who say that the proper role of the advisory committees is not on a project-to-project basis, but on larger sort of policy orientations. And an example that came up is, well, if the pedestrian committee wanted to take on a big hairy thing, why not push for a bond issue to build more sidewalks? Because as we know, sidewalks happen in a piecemeal fashion as sometimes as an afterthought to projects, and only built by developers or built as a community benefit or built to, heal a gap in the system. And there are other ways to do that. Why not, seek a bond issue for, a number, $20 million worth of sidewalks and see what happens, as opposed to narrowly focusing on aspects of particular projects, which in the view of some of my colleagues are being managed by professionally trained and certified engineers and project managers, who may regard it as a delay or something. Anyway,
That's a good,
I put that
no,
out.
that's a good point, actually. You may remember I, for a couple of years, was chair of the Neighborhood Conservation Advisory Committee, now our
Yes.
neighborhood programs. And even as chair, more than once, I commented to the group that I believed that there were streets without sidewalks whose importance exceeded that of the neighborhood. They were county streets. They deserved a sidewalk, irrespective of what the property owners voted for.
Right.
They were routes to schools or routes to public transportation or heavily routes for people walking to services or work. And if a neighborhood didn't want the sidewalk, it did not happen. And yet I believe there are streets without sidewalks and crossings that deserve the attention of the county, irrespective of the votes of those property owners. So yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
And a reflection on that, I've lost all my hair since I've worked with the county. I've been around long enough to know that insight led to the creation of the Neighborhood Complete Streets program, which some of you have served on that commission. It's led by my colleague, Michelle Stafford. And she and that group, and I think there's one engineer assigned to work with her, they've fielded like 300 potential projects, not all of which are sidewalks, many of which are sidewalks, to try to get over that flaw in the previous neighborhood conservation program. And it's not a robust, fully funded program. They can do 1 or 2 projects a year against a list of 300 potential projects. So the appetite is still, or the need is still there, but I guess the appetite to take them all on and the funding to take them all on are not yet meeting the pace. Anyway, I put that out there as an example of another way to steer this committee and its activities than principally being project-oriented oversight body, but really take on some big hairy goal. Not that I'm going to take it on, but just to put it out there as an example of what I hear from some of my colleagues.
Thanks. I see Eric Malpelli, your camera is on. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, one reaction and then maybe one suggestion on how we can do things. I think the comment, and I think it's good that it was shared that, hey, the professionals working on projects sometimes see our feedback on specific projects in a certain way, and I certainly understand that. And this is more a comment on things in America than things in Arlington County. I think there are lots of things that might be sort of standard engineering, quote unquote, best practices that good professionals do that may or may not align with the interests of pedestrians. So I think there's a role for us on specific projects and maybe a way for us to execute on that, though, with also the mindset of, hey, we look at things more broadly, is find ways in our feedback to have a broader perspective, right? As opposed to only, focus on a specific project, but put it in the context of other things going on or other priorities that Joe Citizen would not necessarily have off.
Right.
Thanks. Tom Corns, it looks like your microphone's on now. Can you?
It's on. How's that?
We can hear you, but still a little, still not real.
Super faint.
Yeah, still faint, but we can hear you a little.
All right. Well, let's see.
Better.
I'm thinking in terms of looking for best practices in journals I never read. I mean, there've got to be, if there are that many bike journals out there, there've got to be more pedestrians than any of us have journals that we've ever encountered that might have good practices, reminders from places all over the world. I'm just saying we're sort of limited in our vision, and there might be some things that we're missing that are quite common good practice in other places that we could introduce here. David, are there journals that you consult on pedestrian, new pedestrian?
Good question.
A lot in engineering. That's good.
There's a lot, Tom. I wouldn't look for them being called Pedestrian Weekly or something. These ideas are cropping up in the context of urban design, safety, those sorts of things. Big. It's something I've noticed in my career, a number of years doing this work, is that these issues of pedestrian access and safety and bicycle access and safety and have moved from the fringes right into the heart of urban design and urban planning. And so I'm not a member of an urban planning organization. I'm a member of something called Professional Bicycle and Pedestrian Professionals, sorry. And but these interests are no longer pigeonholed. They're mainstream now.
Right. Well, thank you. That's a good start. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate what's going on, by the way, in terms of I can recall when we didn't dare suggest putting down a stripe on a travelway because it would cost too much to remove it, which was what traffic engineers thought was the fate of any paint on the pavement. And we're living in a different world now. Right. I'm happy to see that there's the amount of marking that there is out there and how it actually makes driving easier and safer for everyone.
I'm going to grab the mic again for 10 seconds. I put in the chat a little further up that if you have occasion to notice something that you really like, send a note to somebody. It's great as a staff member buried in a cube farm on the 9th floor of courthouse building to get an attaboy. It just really is great. It happens to me once in a while. I know that my colleagues appreciate hearing from somebody, hey, they really like the bulb out on, Washington Boulevard or whatever. I know that we spend a lot of time, and rightly, looking at things that are not quite up to snuff, or somebody missed the mark, or there's an opportunity to do more. But if you see something that looks like they got it right, just send a little note.
I want to respond to that, and then I'm going to let Pam respond, and then I want to go back. I want to go back to Tom. Pam, you've been very patient. I do want to say one thing on exactly that, and maybe you can tell me who to go to for this. But the shaving of the sidewalks has been just incredible. I think it has improved what allowing people to travel in areas. The slopes are still there, which are sometimes not good, but just those lips, shaving them down is amazing. I don't even know who to talk to, because for that nobody ever came to us to say, hey, this is what we're planning to do in Arlington. Which would have been nice.
It's Jeremy Hassan. He's the fellow who came to talk about when they collected all the data from the sidewalk survey. And the last time we heard from him was, a year ago or more. They said they had so much data they didn't know what to do with it. Well, one of the things they've done with it is the planing of the sidewalks. And he's in the Water Sewer Streets Bureau. I don't know exactly what it's called. It's like concrete maintenance team of the Water Sewer Streets Bureau. But Jeremy Hassan, he should be easy to find in the county's email system.
I think it might be good to send, and I can ask if on behalf of the committee, maybe to send a letter just saying, thank you, that just smoothing out these sidewalks has been has provided many benefits. Yeah, I see that Jim Feaster has said that he loves that. So so I will try and to get that. Can you send me his
I'm
email
going to put it in the
address?
chat right now. I just I've never actually met Jeremy. He's been to the committee a few times. I've never met him. We started engaging with him during COVID, but I'm going to put his email in here.
Okay. That would be great. And now Pam, I'm going to go to Pam, who's been incredibly patient, and then I'd like to ask Tom Corn something afterwards. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. 2 points. The first, I'm kind of boggled about our getting bonds for sidewalks. That seems like a very political activity, which is beyond the scope of what we do. And there are real political pedestrian advocacy groups, and that, like what Jillian is doing, and maybe that is a more appropriate venue for that. But it's very interesting.
I'm just the messenger.
I know. That's really wow. My original point, which I wanted to give right after David spoke several minutes ago, was about having Jason specifically come periodically to update us on a bunch of projects. And as I mentioned, I think to Eric and David when we were talking, that the National Landing Bid does that in their quarterly transportation program. And if Matt is here, he may want to talk about that.
He's still on, it looks like.
Yeah, it is open to anyone interested in transportation. It is a wonderful update. And it's like it reviews everything that's linked, talks about upcoming public engagements. And when there are specific big issues going on, like CC to DCA, they'll have a specific speaker on that. So I think that's a great model. And if Matt is willing to say something about it, that would be great.
Hey everyone, enjoying the discussion. Thanks Pam for that ringing endorsement. Yeah, every once a quarter the county, because National Landing, as we all know, has been under massive transformation, and we figured this would be a great way to update the public on all the projects, which there's so many that are going on in National Landing when it comes to transportation infrastructure. And so the county brings like all their staff. I mean, this is all a virtual meeting, and they report out on everything from the rooter to the tutor, the projects at National Landing, and it's great. And we have a recording and report out, and what I will do is I'm part of the Google group. I'll put the link as well as the dates we've mapped all the dates out for the next fiscal year, which started in July and it will end in July 25. I'll put that in the Google group and people can subscribe if they want.
That would be great. I think it would be good, and we can encourage our members to attend that. Thank you. All right. I guess one last thing, I wanted to talk to Tom for a moment, and then maybe we'll finish up with David if you have anything, any county initiatives, any county items. But Tom, just again, you're the charter member, or one of the charter members of this group, sort of hearing, kind of where things have evolved to now based on where they were before. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm impressed because I was here at a point where we were fighting. I was on the site plan review with a planning commissioner, and we had to fight over every intersection. I think I've said this before, and then there was a sea change that happened after an incident where we had a new developer come in and build a large building just down the hill from courthouse, and he agreed to everything without he agreed to a lot of suggestions that we had made about that were not apparently adequately supported by staff at that time, or it wasn't in the forefront of the list. At least this is a new guy in town, and he just said he'd do it. He would do things that weren't there, and it seemed that following that, it wasn't like he set a precedent for other developers coming in and agreeing to things. It was like the county. There must have been other changes in county staff at this time. I don't know whether it was because of or just coincidental with it that things changed quite radically in our ability of site plan review to suggest things in relation to intersections and so forth that were agreed to. I'm so pleased to see the use of PAC, and I don't know, who's responsible for that breakthrough or what technically is responsible, but I live on a narrow street with a lot of traffic, and just having 10 foot of yellow stripe at a major intersection to separate traffic just saves everybody a lot of time and anxiety. There are lots of little simple things that are suddenly the practice in the county, and I'm delighted to see them. So I'm looking for, I guess I'm looking for a contribution that pedestrians themselves can make to make life easier for as well.
Thank you, Tom. And I'm going to let David, if you
Sure.
can, you have the last few minutes to talk about anything you want to.
I'm gonna blast through a list because I did create a list. I knew I had the opportunity to do a shout out of some things that are coming up maybe some new news and some old news. I'll start by following up with what Tom just said. I think Dan Neighbors it gets a lot of credit for the more liberal use of paint and bollards and what are called tactical interventions that don't require a whole long period of development. He has a great team working with him. He's now the head of TE&O. Dan's a terrific guy. He lives in Arlington. He knows this stuff. He used to work for the feds, safety orientation, blah, 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 blah. And he's set the pace that has created a lot of good stuff. So I'm going to blast through a list. Not all of these are project related. Chris Slatt is leaving, or I think has now been replaced as the head of Transportation Commission after 13 years. We all know Chris Slatt, appreciate what he's done. He's still a member of the BAC. There's going to be I don't call it a memorial, but a recognition event for his long tenure sometime in September. I don't know the date, sorry. The Shared Streets pilot, which is part of the Neighborhood Complete Streets program, is going ahead. The new Shirlington pedestrian bridge, I saw it 5 times today because I was down in Shirlington. It crosses 4 Mile Run right by Jenny Dean Park on the north side of Shirlington Road. It connects very well. A whole bunch of new housing on the east side of the 4 Mile Run Valley with Shirlington with all of its facilities. Don't think it's quite open yet. There were still a bunch of guys with yellow vests down there. The exciting thing is happening at the intersection of George Mason and 4 Mile Run. There a complicated intersection. There's a design project we're being gifted from Washington COG to do a peanut about. You can look for a peanut about on the internet and see what you find. Not a roundabout. It's a long, skinny, sort of lobed theoretical intersection.
A thin middle.
A thin middle. Yeah.
Yes, narrow middle.
It's
like an eight that isn't connected, right?
Like a figure 8 that doesn't have a middle bar. So it's an exciting prospect for a tricky intersection. That's going to be a design study. It's being gifted to the county. They're in the process of choosing the consultant to do that. The kickoff for the public engagement for the next transportation plan is coming. It's not been developed yet. I think it's going to be in October officially. And I have a modest proposal to start calling this the NTP, not the MTP. It won't be called the Master Transportation Plan. It'll be called the Transportation Plan. But people have an appetite for a third initial, so I want to call it the New Transportation Plan, call it the NTP. You know, it's marketing, right? It's my modest contribution to this business. My colleague and counterpart, Elwin Gonzalez, who is liaison to the BAC, is working with that committee and I think with us to project out several months in advance agenda items so we have some agreement about what's important and what we can do together. Heard a report yesterday in my planning group about the Barcroft project. You all know about the Barcroft project at the southeast corner of Columbia Pike and George Mason. We had a presentation about that from Brian Shelton a couple of months ago. And
I just want to say, and Pam co-authored a great letter on this.
And Mike Hanna from the BAC is on that stakeholder working group as well. So it's going forward, and it is, I would say the developers' plans are maybe calling into question some of the previous assumptions. For example, the sector, as I understand it, the sector plan called for, say, 6-foot sidewalks because there are going to be a row of townhouses. But now that it's going to be higher density housing, it should be 8-foot sidewalks. So back to the drawing boards. So that kind of tension is happening in the working out of that big, important project. CC to DCA has in hand the FONSI, which is a finding of no significant impact, which is from Federal Highways Administration, which was an important achievement. It's not the last word on the go-ahead for that project because we need a FONSI from the Park Service and a FONSI from the FAA because of the airport. But that project is continuing, and now the the working group is in very close contact with the highway design people working with the airport. And it's a lot of exciting, interesting, and very positive things happening there. One thing to keep in mind about Gateway Park is that the boathouse is a real project. The National Park Service wants to build a boathouse at the very northern end of the TR Island parking lot area. It will have only pedestrian access to the boathouse, but there will be vehicular access at the nasty intersection of Lynn Street and eastbound Langston. So that adds to the excitement at Gateway Roslyn. And there's a fellow named Marco Rivera, who's in the county's park department, who's the county's lead contact for that Park Service project. A couple more things. There's a thing called a special GLUP. You may have heard of the GLUP, which is the general land use plan. Well, special GLUPs are little GLUPs that show up in the context of like a single development project. And I get roped into those from time to time because my working colleague, Angie de la Barrera, is the contact for CPHD when they have special GLUP requests. And she comes to us to know, what would you like? What would you like to see in your shopping list of things? What would you like to see in this special GLUP? And things come to her, for example, like a project out on Wilson Boulevard near the skate park, where somebody wants to build 8 or 10 or 16 units of housing on what has never been a densely developed site before. So what do we do in terms of sidewalks, bike lanes, bus stops, da, 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 da. So I may come to you all from time to time. What would you like to see in your dream shopping list for a thing like that? And then just very close to home for me, things that I'm directly involved with, counters, wayfinding, and racks. I won't spend any time on that other than that I'm in the field every day this week doing counter upgrades, working closely with the research team. I mentioned to somebody earlier about the university researchers who are working with the Park Service, and our counters are baked into that regional effort. And interesting little interventions on wayfinding going on. And I'm plugging this because in the context of the NTP, there's an opportunity not to get into the details, but to create initiative, create momentum to create a project or a program for countywide wayfinding. We don't have such a thing yet. We have some legacy wayfinding that's out there, and it's kind of spotty and not well connected. And we have some little interventions we're doing, like on the WNOD trail, and some little spot interventions where a particular set of signs are out of date or confusing that we're doing. But there's the master planning for transportation always calls for wayfinding, but there's no money. There's no money, there's no staff, there's no project, there's no program. So I think this is my pitch, that this committee has a role to play in helping make that happen in the context of the new transportation plan. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you. And just one last thing, and David, thank you for giving us all those updates. Hopefully, well, we got them captured in the.
Yes, that was my aim, was to get them in the record.
Okay, good, good. So I may go back and review the recording. The other thing, I guess, Pam, I don't know if you have this handy, if you could just name off what we think is going to be on the agenda coming this next meeting, which is going to be the joint meeting with the PAC.
There are, I think, about 5 items under discussion. And the issue being whether Elwyn and Cynthia and we agreed on whether any of the ones that Elwyn put there could be dropped, especially since we're kind of hosting the meeting.
Right.
Okay, number 1 definitely is Ilana. And traditionally, that is part of our September meeting, a joint meeting with the PAC. So that's great. She's wonderful.
Legislative agenda.
Legislative
priorities.
Number 2, which we could switch if we have to, is asking Tinley Peterson, who is our planning commission representative on the PAC, if she can come talk to us about SPRCs. That has been a topic that we have wanted to have somebody come talk to us for years, and finally she has agreed to do it. We were hoping she could do it either at this meeting or the last meeting. She could not. She is available in September, so if we can accommodate her, that would be great. And then there's, let's see if we can remember what Elwyn's topics are. One of them was the trail, with the
Custis Trail.
WNOD, yeah, Custis Trail. The let's see, the commuter group plan, which is a good topic, and I can't imagine it would be very long. And I'm trying to remember what the
10
third
minutes.
topic was.
Is
What?
there something on 4 Mile Run, or am I getting that mixed up?
No, I don't think it was that.
No, okay.
I forget what it was.
Okay.
So
Anyway, it should be a good meeting
Right.
next month, and
Right.
we'll be providing updates on what that agenda will turn out to be. But it will be an action-packed meeting.
definitely,
Okay.
as was this one. My question for you, David, were you talking about special gloves? Have you been asked about the Melwood project yet?
Yes, months and months ago. And
Okay, you didn't
I've-
ask me.
I wasn't asked to survey the community. There was an engagement process underway. I was asked to go investigate the site. And I was very well aware that the neighbors were not very supportive of what was being planned. And I funneled my comments up the flagpole. And I don't think I brought it to this committee.
Okay, I will be, I might want to discuss that with you sometime. That you are correct that the immediate neighbors are not happy. That does not necessarily reflect how the broader community feels.
Okay.
Many of us support it.
David, when are you leaving?
What?
Excuse me?
When are you leaving?
When am I leaving?
Yes.
For what?
Well, that's what I say. I thought you were a short timer these days.
No. I have no plans to go anywhere.
Oh,
Oh, good.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to
Thank
hear.
you.
I don't know where you
I'll
heard
hold you
that.
to it.
The rumors of my demise have been, falsely spread.
That's wonderful. Rumors about mine are getting closer. But no, I'm thank you very much for, I'm glad I brought it up because I had the wrong impression. I thought you had,
No.
Thank
No.
What do you have there?
wonderful.
Somebody's whispering now. Now I'm suspicious. What's
I
going
think
on?
this is has something to do with a cat.
Oh,
Like a test to see if people are still listening, if we're still here with all our
My
cameras
cat
up.
just-
Put like a
My cat just grabbed a
spicy
rubber
thing in
band. I
there
gotta
at
grab it.
9:10 and see if
Yeah, my
anybody's
cat just
listening.
okay.
Well, I
Well-
want to thank everybody for coming. We had good folks and good
Perfect
participation.
attendance.
And people are welcome to stick around and talk about anything they want to. You may want to end the official recording right now.
I will do that. We're
But,
gonna cut off the recording.
But we don't
Um,
want to kick anybody off. If people still want to discuss things, it's not a problem.